So I'm making Michelle for Christmas, and sort of like as a little thing, a advent calendar. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to make a star, and that star is going to have little pockets. So to do that, I needed to build something that'll have pretty high walls. So I've got this pieces of plywood. I've got about 10 pieces of ply, and I'm going to cut a bunch of angles on them that will hopefully join them together if the guide I watched is any help. So I'm going to cut a bunch of 18-degree angles, a bunch of 54-degree angles, and apparently if the maths works out, then I am going to have a bunch of pieces that I can join together into a star. So I got some cuts to do. So I've done sort of some of the cuts. The thing I read told me that I have to do an 18-degree cut, which is this one, and a 54-degree cut, which is this one. So I'm currently working on the 54-degree cuts right now, and hopefully it's going to start coming together. Stuck there. Well, that's okay, you can just like sand that off. It's not really an issue. A little bit of sandpaper should be right. Don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of windy today. And they said a storm's meant to be coming later, but it doesn't look like it. So that's pretty much all done. The way it kind of works is that join them up all together. So like the points of the star are the 18-degree angles, so they sort of do that. And they come together like that quite nicely. And then you get 54-degree angles, and see how they join up in a really short way. So the way it works is that these are like the short sides of the star, and the 18-degree angles are the long side of the star. A lot of the builds I see with people doing this, they're usually using a really thick wood. So, you know, so for example, they're using like most of the time pine because it's a really strong wood, but they're using like really thick pine. So what they'll do is they'll join it, then they'll they'll glue it, they'll put a nail in it, usually using a nail gun or something like that. Whereas I don't really have that option because I'm using not thin, it's quite thick ply, so it's about, I think it's like 6 ply plywood, which gives it a bit of strength. So you can see there, like it doesn't just break, but it also keeps it relatively lightweight. I wanted this whole thing to sort of be easy to pick up and to move around and to look at. Like it's a good display piece. It wouldn't survive very well if you like tossed it out of a window or something, but that's not what it's designed for. So the way it's going to work is I will join all these pieces together, right? Glue them. Then once that's finished, I'll be working on sort of like the boards that go on either side. So I'll just get this into a star shape so you can kind of see what I'm going for, and then I'll get back to you. So this is it. Obviously it's not all joined together yet, but the deal would be that you sort of, I've got like some thin bits of plywood that I'm going to be putting on either side. I'm going to review my design. I may make it smaller depending, because it's a bit big. You guys can't really see that it is a reasonably sized star. I'm being a little generous when I say reasonably sized, because if we measure it from one point to another, I'm pretty sure it's nearly like, it's like roughly over 1 meter in diameter, which may be a little big for our purposes, but the general build still works the same way. It just might be a thing where I cut all of these to half their size. We're just gonna see how it goes. So I've just glued the points together. I'm going to give that a couple of hours to dry, and then I will join the inside corners together. And you'll see I've got some plywood here. The plan is to cut plywood backing for this star, and the backing will go on 2 sides. So that way I can sort of like, it's sort of like an empty inside for me to put different stuff in for Michelle to have a go of. Okay, so I've joined the points together, and now I've joined the short sides. So you can see what I've done is I've got like a little piece of tape. If you have a look at one of the corner bits here, let's try this one. You'll see I've got a piece of tape there to prevent it from coming apart at the top, and then a bracing piece there. If I wasn't going to put a backing on this, then I would probably recommend using like a staple gun or a nail gun or something to also hold the pieces together. But what's going to happen is when I put the backing on it, it will actually also hold the frame together. So the glue is just to keep the initial joins square. So you can see it's a nice like clean star with a clean point end to end. Although you can't really tell with the wide angle lens, it's a little bit off. But once I put the backing ply on, you can see it's on top of it now. Once I put that backing ply on, all of the wood will be held together that way. So then I've just got to put one side on, the other side on, cut some holes out, and then that should be it. That should be my massive advent calendar. So if you're wondering, I only really needed a few basic tools to get this job done, and I will point out that I used wood that I already had. So the aim of this build was to get rid of wood that I already owned and needed to get rid of. So the star itself is made from 6-ply pine plywood, which I used in a previous project. If you want to check one of Michelle's videos, you'll see that we play a game that's inspired by like poker pool, where you roll balls down. I used the offcuts I've had from that to build this star, and the only real tools I needed was just jigsaw, miter saw, and then measuring and marking equipment. I had a tape, a rule. I had a measuring tape, a ruler, and a pencil. So it's sort of a really easy to start project once you know how angles work. So if you're wondering, what I had to do was I had to cut 2 angles, right? One angle, 27-degree angle, and in order to achieve that, I had to cut a 45 jig, right? For those of you who don't know, a jig is a tool that you use when you want to cut a certain angle but you can't, so it jigs the saw to do something you want, right? And then I had my miter saw set at, set at 27 this way. And so what happens is you've got a 45-degree angle and you put this on 27, you end up with an 18-degree angle. So once I did that, then I just got rid of the jig, turned it over to 36. 36 in the reverse direction is the other measurement I needed, which was 54. So when you're thinking about angles, it's sort of about basic mathematics. So a miter saw thinks in 45-degree angles. So 0 is 0, and then it can go halfway one way, right, which is 45 out of 90 degrees. That's how you have to think about it. You have to think about a 90-degree angle. So you can see from the bottom here to up here, it says 0, but what we're really saying is I'm going to cut like a straight angle down here. At 36, take 36 away from 90 degrees and you end up with 54. Which, again, is just a brilliant, simple piece of mathematics. I didn't even think of it, but it gets you this. Bit of glue, and it all comes together. Like I said, if you're going to use your own, if you're going to make this, don't just use glue, right? Make sure you attach it using something else, even if it's something like, I think the Americans call them brad nails, but for us, just like a small nail that you can get in with a nail gun, or even heavy-duty staplers would probably do the trick. You can also use, well, you could actually staple the joints here. But like I said, I've elected to have a backing to provide strength to the shape. This shape would have no strength at all. If I just took the tape off now, it would fall apart. So it's always about finding a way to reinforce your shape to make sure it's not going to move. Okay, so now it doesn't look like a star because I've got the backing applied to it. So pretty much what I've done, you can actually even see the bits of tape, is I've put some like bigger shapes onto the board, onto like my little frame. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the piece over, and then I'm going to cut in the shape of the star. Rather than try to measure and cut it precisely, I will have the wood measuring it for me, and then I just sand it back to the correct length. So let's see how that goes. So the backing board's on, which is just a thinner ply with a few screws in it, just to keep it attached to the frame. It's relatively secure, like you know, it's offering enough strength to the shape that it shouldn't be too much of a drama. Looks alright. Just gonna keep working. You'll notice I had to get, if you can see the crack, you can see there's like 3 different bits of ply that I had to use. If I feel like it, I can paint it over, or I can sort of leave it wooden to give it this sort of rustic look. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so the shelves are in, and you can see that like they're going across. I've just glued these on, but what's going to be happening is, see that little cross piece there? I'm going to do a few of those, then once that's done, I'm going to drill some holes, and that's how everything's going to fit in. And also, now that I'm putting all of this extra inside stuff in, that'll help give even more strength to the shape. One of these points nearly came undone here, so I had to just screw that together, and you know, sometimes that happens. Sometimes this glue doesn't work properly and you're worried about stuff coming apart. Just a couple small wood screws just to help that sort of stay kind of stable, makes it a little bit better. So these are the holes in one side. You'll notice, you can't quite see, but they do line up because there's backing on it where the shelves are. So if you actually have a look, you would put an object inside, and there's a little shelf. Put the object on that. Now I'm not just going to leave these as circles. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get the jigsaw and I'm going to get rid of these sort of like cornery bits there, so it sort of turns it into a nice kind of oval shape. And then yeah, drilling this out took quite a while and actually took a lot of effort, so it's pretty exhausting work, but I think it's going to look pretty good when I'm finished. So it's done. The interior's in, the backing side is on now. As you can see, I did a similar thing, and you'll notice that I deliberately changed where the parts are so that there's like cross pieces. So you can see here on the front that I put the lines there, but on the backing I made it different, so that way it's really strong. You can see in there, if you have a look, there's a little shelf, put the stuff on, little shelf there. So there's little shelves everywhere for me to put everything on. And then all I'm going to do now is add some doors, you know, just a bit of paper, put tape there, hinge, maybe some blue tack. Because I didn't want it to be too complicated. I wasn't going to design and fit 25 tiny hinges, 24 tiny hinges. But overall, I think total amount of working time was about, say, 10 to 15 hours. So that's not bad for 10 to 15 hours of work. So this is it. You can see I've sort of made these little stars to act as the doors, just using a bit of rainbow gaff tape to keep the hinges on, bit of blue tape to keep it shut. Maybe next year I might work on designing some little doors that can go on some little hinges, and I'll just put them there. But yeah, it's got all the little shelves. I'll show you a few things when I get the chance.